have a redone version of the hazard map that we put together at a focus group that we held in September. And Gina led us through what the plastics process is like. And we had a really rough drawing. It was, we put stickers on to show where the various hazards were. And we thought it might be better to reproduce that very rough hazard map into something that looks a little clearer. So anyway, Gina and I are going to go over here to the hazard map, and she's going to describe for us just what it is that we're talking about. Those of you, of course, who are working in the plastics industry will already know all of this, and if you want to pipe in with anything, feel free. You know, if you have had experiences or there's anything you want to emphasize. But really, this is more for those of you who are not terribly familiar with the process. So, I've also got a few pictures of what it looks like in the plants and what the machines look like that we may go through as well. So, Gina, maybe if we just go over there and you can tell us, start at the beginning, what happens? Do the trucks come in? Tell us what happens.
Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. The beginning. So they bring pellets in, the raw material, and they either come in, we call them gaylords, they're big, huge cardboard boxes, and there's anywhere from 1,000 to 1,600 pounds. They come from the States, so it's pounds of material in each box. Or there's a big truck that comes in and fills up silos that are stored outside. Anywhere from 10,000, 20,000 pounds can go in these silos, depending on what you're producing, how much of it. You don't have to you open up a 1,000-pound gaylord box every 20 minutes. So, and it's trucked in, and so we have people unloading the gaylords, the boxes, off the trucks. So, shipping and receiving on propane trucks, lift trucks, are driving in and out of the trucks, unloading the plastic. So they're fumes from the propane trucks. And then it is brought over to the machine, and either it's hooked up to the silo, so the material is drawn in and is deposited to the machine, where it will be heated later on. Or someone brings over the gaylord, the box, and which is our material handler. They're driving around lift trucks. They bring it over, they open up the box, they open up the plastic, and they stick a wand in there that brings the pellets into a hopper. The hopper is where it's stored just before it's going to go into the machine and get heated. Okay, so we're at the point where the material is being loaded into the hopper.
Where's the hopper on the map?
The hopper is, you know, American people see it very well. It's right above. It's right above the machine.
So it would be this, would it be?
Yes, that's it.
And Peter, maybe you could just tell us, I mean, I know in that video, we saw that there was actually a guy standing up on
Dumping
top
the
of the
material into that hopper. That's where the material is stored just before it's going to get melted.
And in some plants, it's still done that way, and other plants, it's automated and enclosed.
When I first started working 25 years ago, that's how we did it. We took a pail, took a pail and just hand bombed it, we called it. We just dumped it into the hopper where it would sit. And inside, just above the hopper, there's an auger inside. It's called the skirt. And it's picking up the plastic from the top and it's drawing it towards the barrel. And it's getting heated all the way along this lump, all the way up until it gets to the nozzle, and the nozzle is heated as well. Different materials are different melt temperatures.
The materials you're talking about, pellets?
The raw pellets, yes. Different materials are different melt temperatures. Some temperatures, the nylon material comes to mind, is 600 degrees, anywhere from 500 to 600 degrees Fahrenheit, and when the lower melting temperatures would be anywhere from 3 to 400, 450. And this is going through, it's melting, it's creating some kind of, it's creating fumes, gas.
So these, we're looking here at a plastics injection molding machine. They're all different but what, can you just show us up here what those are?
Okay, these are the machines here. Usually they're all side by side, one right next to the other. That is by design, because if we're going to go through the hopper, the silo system, there's piping all over your head, which is carrying all these different kinds of materials and drawing them into the hopper automatically. And like I said, when I first started working there, there was no automatic. It was you climb up on a ladder, someone hoisted up a box, you grab a 5-gallon pail and you just start paling it in.
Does anybody know, is that still going on in any of these plants where it's still this car?
I don't know if it's still going on, but we eliminated that at the trim plant back in the 80s where you had a system where they would come in these cartons and it would be vacuumed up into the hopper.
Yes.
No manual labor at all involved.
The other thing too, Mark, is that you get 75% of the plants are small plants. They're not unlike your big ones. And they may have less than 20 workers, they're not technically advanced. So that's just gets forwarded.
Yeah.
Most
So
cases.
some small plants may still be doing it that way.
Oh, they are.
And there's all kinds of opportunity there for exposure to dust and so on.
So now we created a part. So it's material's gone through the auger and the screw and the barrel, and it's all heated, and it's now been injected into the mold. When I first started working in my plant, the machine was here, the door was here, you open the door, you pull the part out when the process was done. So you're standing right next to the mold, that's very hot, heated. The barrel is right here beside you, and the hopper is probably over here. So you're standing right next to all this going on. So you open the door, you pull up the part. Now we have robots. So now, at our company, there's a robot that actually comes in, picks up the part, drops it on a conveyor, and now I'm standing down here. The machine is over there. I'm down here. The part gets brought to me, and I do whatever I inspect it, I trim, do whatever I have to do with it, and package it. But like I said before, you're standing right next to it, you're opening the door, and it's very hot. There is no air conditioning in a place like that. So there's...
When the part comes to you, is it still warm?
It's still warm, yes.
And can you smell it?
Yeah, depending
Or? I
on...
was so used to the smell.
I'm going to say yes. I'm not exactly sure. Depending on the job, depending on the type of material, you can tell when you work there long enough which material is going to smell. But that is, a part has been made. That is just the operator. The material handler, they're the ones that actually deal with making sure the lines are working and bringing of any components that have to be used, because it's some assembly required on some of these jobs. Bringing boxes, empty boxes, taking away full boxes.
So if you were working on this machine,
Right.
so the part gets made, you go down to the end of it, and
25
then...
years ago, I'm standing here at the door,
Yeah.
opening, closing it.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm standing probably about here.
And you might have to do something with that part when it comes through? You might
Yes, you might have to trim some, we call it flash, a little excess plastic that
Would you do that? How do you do that, with a knife?
utility knife or cutters. There are a lot of repetitive strain injuries in the industry because of this. And depending on the plastic, it's really tough kind of plastic. You have to really, this is worse to cut those.
So if we're looking up here at the map,
Right.
same thing's going on next to you.
Yep. All the way down the line.
Okay, and
Might
might
be a
they,
different part.
and they might be running different, they're all
Material.
making different kinds of parts and using different materials?
Yes.
So are you, like you said that you can identify the type of plastic that's being used by the smell. Are you aware if somebody next to you is using something that's...
That also depends. In the movie, they were talking about purging.
Yeah.
Okay, when you first start up a job or shut down a job, that's when there's likely to be purging. And it's all very true. 25 years ago when I started there, it was when the guys, mostly and that were doing that part of the job. It's called setup. When they set up the mold, they would purge the machine, and there'd be, might not be a lot of purging, a bit. They'd throw it on the floor, it would smoke for
So
a bit.
that's the gunk that comes out, that's what's left over
Yeah.
when you're going to
This is
switch
the
to a
barrel.
Mhm.
That's the barrel. There's, the screw is in the back of the mold, right, it's right behind the guard. They pull the barrel back, they purge it, and it would be sitting there for a bit, they take it, they just throw it on the floor. So right about here is where there are these substances.
So you've got all kind of smoky plastic.
Yeah, it's
sitting-
smoky, it's smelly, it's burnt. It's been sitting in there for a while, now it's burnt.
Now, the process is different today in your plant.
We
than
have-
in the small plants.
Yes, we have purging barrels where they have treated barrels. They've got water in them, they open the lid, they throw it in there, they close the lid, and it's on wheels. And
Then
kind of
what
get it
happens?
away.
They throw that out.
Actually, we recycle that.
How do you do that?
I'm not exactly sure because we don't do that. We send it out to a processing place and we recycle that stuff.
Now, what about, now, what about regrind?
Yes.
What's that?
Okay, when I started working there again, every machine had a grinder next to it. If you had a bad part that was not of quality, we recycle the material because that's money. So we put it in the regrind. We put it in the grinder. And when you're putting something in a grinder, you don't want to stand in front of it because it's grinding up plastic, it's creating a lot of dust, especially in the summertime. You do not want to stand in front of there. But you would take, once you learned, take the part, here's my grinder, and then you'd stand like this, you shove the part in, and there's like a flap, like a flue, that would, the part would go in and it would close behind it to kind of stop a lot of it from coming back, and like a curtain as well. So you just kind of stand, throw it in, pull the flue, let it slide down, close back up, and then go back to your machine, kind of stay away from it.
And does that go back in the hopper? Is that becomes
No,
part of the new material?
That was part of the new technology, but yes, that does happen. Previously, your material handler, and which I did that job, would go into a bucket at the bottom, and you'd have to take it out, and that big Gaylord I was telling you about, dump it in there, and then mix it all up, and that would get brought back up to the hopper and reused.
Now, painting, decorating, gluing, do you do that in your plant? I know it
We
was-
used to, and my mother ran the paint line, and I ran the hand spray. I was the hand spray, and we mixed our own paint. We have we'd have to use enamel paint, so there was different lights that we had to put them under, and it would all be stored outside the paint itself and mixed inside the
And was there overspray? I mean,
Oh, yes. I worked in the hand spray booth itself. Once a week, we clean the filters or change the filters as needed. So that meant we would blow the filters, and any ones that were really bad were replaced. The ones that weren't really bad, we just kept them there. That was a Friday afternoon job, and being the low person in the plant, guess who got to do it most of the time? But yeah, that was not a fun job.
Did you wear masks though?
Yes, I did, but it was only a dust mask. And it was, I was 20 when I started working there. And so I always say that sometimes we're our own worst enemy. And when it's really hot, you really don't want to wear this stuff because we were suited with coveralls, masks, hats. I'm going to cover my hair because I'm 20 and this is great paint and I didn't want to paint my hair. But I laugh now, but it was just, like I said, we're our own worst enemy sometimes. I didn't like wearing a mask. My mother did work there though, and she did make me wear it.
Probably we'll have a discussion later about this issue of personal protective equipment, because, certainly the union is saying that is not the first course of action. You want engineering controls. You want to do everything you can so that you don't have those exposures, so you don't have to. I mean, it's terrible to wear a mask all day. You can't breathe. I mean, really restricted in breathing, so it's not.
And anybody who works in the plastics industry, in the summertime, if it's 100 outside, it's got to be at least 120 inside the plant. It's very hot. And it's very uncomfortable. Wear coveralls if you have to, but if you have a choice, you really won't.
Okay, I know that we could listen to Gina all day here describing this. I mean, you know, when we're talking about what the conditions were like 20 years ago, when we were, you know, when you started working in the plants, I mean, it sounds like conditions were worse and the plant was worse. I think, you know, the union, you have done a lot to try to clean things up. Bob DiMatteo, who has been looking into this issue here in Toronto, you know, has noted that in some of the smaller plants, there are a lot of non-union plastics plants. We don't have these kinds of improvements, and you know, if you look at what was going on 20 years ago here, that's what's happening today in a lot of these smaller plants. A couple of issues here, right? Gina's describing conditions that could lead to cancers today, right, because of the latency period. We have this issue that Jim talked about, of the fact that no woman in Canada has ever received workplace compensation for breast cancer, even though we know there are exposures that can cause breast cancer. We know that when those plants are developing breast cancer, there's a terrible injustice here. We also have the issue of the fact that there are still these exposures. I know that you're not without exposures in that plant, even though there are some improvements.
Yes.
I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Some of the improvements that happened, and some may seem really minor, but I was talking to someone else. When a part is being made, say you're going to do two parts at one time, but they need to be separate. They're separated by, it's called a runner. And when we watch that movie, and they're doing the Darth Vader part, she was trimming off all the runners. That's all excess. That stuff is recyclable, so it gets ground up. What they started to do in my plant, they started doing this a while ago. They rejigged the molds so that you don't have a runner, so you don't have to grind. And got rid of a lot of the grinders. We may have one or two in our plant right now, and that was it. Whereas before 20 presses, each had a grinder. Every one of them had a grinder, they were all gone. Kind of thing. It maybe is something minor, but it's huge. To not have to dump grinders, to not have to grind it, standing in front of it.
Now, is every one of those machines ventilated, nice local ventilation over there?
It's called the big bay door when we open that up. Still, yeah. The purging barrels, that was another thing.
Just an issue on the grinding. I think it was about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, we had the grinder has a hose that's hooked up to a blue seal
Catch
thing.
all basin.
Well, the hose had a leak, and there was dust. From my press, I thought it was smoke. And this person, when they blew their nose, it was like black, like going in their lungs. I mean, it's oil like going in their lungs and breathing it in.
Yeah, and this is something that we heard. You know, we did interview 40 different men from 50 different plastics plants, and we heard about these malfunctions that have happened. So even though there might be improvements in some of the places, they don't always work. And sometimes they're, something gets stuck, and the nozzle gets clogged, and the material superheats or starts to catch fire, and then there's smoke everywhere. So, I mean, if everything's running smoothly, then maybe the exposure is minimal, but there are lots of malfunctions.
Right.
So I guess maybe, Carrie?
Yeah, do you want to talk about the difference between the barrels? Bringing the barrel in with the water, because it used to come out after a purge, be a big blob, land on the floor and off gas right next to it.
Yeah.
Now this water means that blob goes in the water, captures that, they put the cover on underneath. That's huge for them, because it used to be sitting right next to you until it cooled down, and then maybe maintenance thing. And the worst part is the optimum condition would be somebody to come in and take that away right away. But it inevitably didn't
Generally, the
happen.
worker that was
So
supposed to be
now
working there
you
would be the one that would clean it up, right?
yeah, so inevitably you would have 2 or 3 different products being off-gassed right next to you. And then we don't have regulations, we don't have parameters at all. We don't even look at those kind of conditions. It's not the optimal conditions, it's when it breaks down.
Where does the water go?
The water just stays in there. They don't actually empty the water out.
Okay, well, I think we're going to have to leave it there for now. There's still lots more to talk about. That gives us a bit of an idea of what's going on among your plants, where some improvements have been made. Again, having talked to lots of people who are working with these plants, I know it's a very uneven thing. You know, some places have more fluids than others. Thank you, Gina.